4 forensic turned up in the same collection of artifacts. So the university said it informed the Africa family of the findings, but did not provide any details. The remains from the 1985 bombing were delivered to the University of Pennsylvania so that forensic researchers could help identify victims whose remains were still in dispute. From there, the remains were placed under lock and key at the museum. Prior 2021. In 2022, an independent investigation revealed that the institution only held the remains of a single individual whose identity could not be established definitively. These investigators also stated that there was no reliable scientific or factual evidence to support the claim that the museum was holding the remains of Delisha, Africa. Now, after 2 years, the Penn Museum reportedly came upon Africa's remains last week during a careful inventory of cataloged artifacts. The girls' remains were situated alongside historic items dating back more than a century, including thousands of human remains from ongoing archaeological excavations. During the announcement, the museum did not explain exactly when the remains were discovered or how they have been overlooked for decades, despite the facility's expert in archaeology and anthropology. Additionally, the museum has not said how the remains came to be in its possession, which staff members were responsible for acquiring them. No details were provided on the condition of the remains or how they were confirmed to be consistent with the identity of Delisha, Africa. It's because they tested the remains. It is because they likely knew for many years when the accusation came that those remains were there. It is because likely the sign is not worth what they did. Now, this is how you can find out the rest of the information. Sue them. Sue them. Put them under oath. Those individuals who engage in this cover-up, in my opinion, they may lie, but those lab techs will not. From those scientists and those universities will tell you the truth. File a lawsuit. All right, sharing thoughts here.
I am still so ashamed of my beloved Philadelphia. I do not mind dating myself. I was a small child watching this murder play out on my family's television in 1985. And let's just be clear here. There was a black mayor at the time, and the police commissioner, Sam Were, ensnared him in this plot to bomb and kill the children. Nobody ever held accountable. The mayor took full responsibility. The chief resigned. The fire commissioner, who said, let the fire burn, resigned. There is no statute of limitations for murder. The city of Philadelphia bombed itself, its own citizens, on that day. And they paid peace, black people, when they were alive. Now that they're gone, studying their bones like they're some ancient artifacts. Disgusting. I am disgusted by my beloved Philadelphia.
Yeah. And you make such a murderous call in this country. It should not be. We will stay on top of this.
Shabbat I have one more clip that I want to play. That just completely blew my mind hearing that. There's more though.
All right. It's the hunger strike was lost. 12 black prisoners set themselves on fire. I'm going to tell you the why. All right, put it up for a mass. You may have seen this on social media. So black men incarcerated in Virginia's Red Onion State Prison reportedly set themselves on fire amid documented abuse behind bars at Red Onion State Prison in Virginia, where 12 black prisoners reportedly set themselves on fire in a terrible 2-week span this fall. Attorney Miriam Nemeth was likely horrified, but probably not. 2.5-month hunger strike at the beginning of the year. He was allowed to drink his cell's toilet water. It was alleged treatment like that and more reported by Business Insider, The Appeal, and other outlets, only giving those who were incarcerated food that had maggots crawling inside of it, handing out severe beatings, subjecting them to electroshocks, denying them of critical that led to the unimaginable choice of a self-immolation in September. Rashid Johnson said he decided to put himself on fire. The men were not inside, where the shift toward hate has been upticking harshly for at least a decade. They were desperate, he said. Setting themselves on fire seemed the only way to make it out of Red Onion, Rashid Johnson explained. And the irony is, he's saying make it out alive. The only way they saw they could make it out alive is to put themselves on fire. There's more. As of this writing, prison officials who initially denied anything at all happened in September, and that there were no prisoners with burns, admitted on Monday that 4 men indeed burned themselves. They claimed it was not self-initiated, but that they were in fact electrical burns. All right, now they are already caught lying. Okay, the officials lie. And then when they admit to lying, they say, yeah, actually something did happen. Individuals were actually burned, but it didn't happen the way, they're saying it happened. So they expect us to believe them after they admitted to lying, admitted to the cover-up, and then still called those who are incarcerated the actual liars. It gets deeper. In October, incarcerated journalist Kevin Rashid Johnson broke the self-harm story for Prison Radio, reporting that men had burned themselves in a desperate attempt to be transferred outside of the prison. For more than 2 decades, civil rights attorneys, human rights advocates, and those incarcerated have documented the horrific conditions at Red Onion, which sits in a rural Western Virginia area near the Kentucky border. According to a 2018 lawsuit, one man allegedly hallucinated and spoke with his dead parents while kept in solitary for more than 12 years. In another case, a man isolated for over 600 days started to speak in numbers, lost more than 30 pounds, and signed his name with a series of random letters. The doc settled both lawsuits. Incarcerated now for 34 years, Mr. Johnson has been risking his life to get people to pay attention. The hunger strike was one act, but his broadcasts and written commentary over the years is likely what has opened the door for some of the media to peek in. But doing so and really looking isn't something mainstream media has chosen to do. Despite the multiple accounts of documents torture at Red Onion, named for the mountain in Wales, Virginia, upon which it was built. E. Shaikh said staff discriminate against him because of my race, my last name, or my religion. I don't mind setting myself on fire again, as she said on the recording. Quote, this time I will set my whole body on fire before I have to stay up here and do the rest of my time up here. These men are not saying they shouldn't do their time. You have to understand the irony of the argument and the diabolical nature in which they're being treated. The argument is simple. Don't serve us food with maggots. Allow us to drink water not inside of our toilets. Do not brutally beat us just because you have authority inside. Heartless one. Who are the ones showing themselves to be inhumane toward humanity? The Virginia Department of Corrections responded. A Virginia Department of Corrections DOC spokesperson said the men used, quote, improvised devices that were created by tampering with electrical outlets. Four incidents occurred on and after September 1st. They coordinated it. Yes. The agency said it tracks incidents of self-harm, but does not make reports on those incidents publicly available. Quote, to be clear, these inmates did not set themselves on fire, she wrote. They were treated for electrical burns at the department's secure medical facility at the VCU Medical Center and cleared to return to the facility. All 6 inmates have been referred to mental health staff for treatment. Once again, the spin is on. The spin is on. Okay? I don't believe a damn word the spin master has to say. Nothing. And this is the reality. Many of us, we know individuals who have served time. We have been in conversation with those who have served time. Many of them served time wrongly and were exonerated. We've interviewed them right here on this show. To have someone go to that extreme, to have a group of individuals go to the extreme of self-harm in order to get out of a facility that's harming them worse by their regular treatment is extreme. All right. Now, the attention is mounting. We encourage those who hear the story to continue to push for more light, because where light is, darkness flees. Francesca, thoughts?
I mean, it already worked, right? Glenn Youngkin had to address this. Governor of Virginia had to address what was going on and said, inmates shouldn't be harmed and whatever else he had to say. They already got that. That's huge. And they had to go to the extremes of lighting themselves on fire in order to do it. And again, what does that mean? It probably means something like triggering the fire alarm, right? Like something like that to get attention to yourself, because your regular suffering, or what I would call torture, this is truly torture. When you put someone into solitary for 15 years, give them nothing but maggot-infested food and deprive them of water, that's torture, people. And this is happening in a state-run prison, right? And yet we all want to be tough on crime. What about what the conditions of our actual prisons and jails are? What about looking into that? How do they actually help people change their ways, give them redemption when they get out, right? Like, what do we think goes on? Or is that just what you get, right? Is that what we think is justice in this country? Meanwhile, of course, the rich, get off doing whatever the hell they want. But look, go to Google. Look up Red Onion Prison. Since 1999, there were human rights violations that were being called out. 1999. So we're 25 years later, and this is still happening. I mean, it's just so wild, and it goes unreported, Doc, and that's what's crazy. That's why these inmates took this measure, because we're talking about it now. And again, we could spend all day talking about prison conditions, and many organizers and activists and incredible stewards and advocates do that, as we should. We should remember how many people are currently behind bars, in cages, and being kept in solitary right now. I don't care if you did it or you didn't do it. No one should be tortured.
That's right. And I applaud the work of people like U.S. Senator John Ossoff, who made it part of his entire focus to look at the human rights conditions inside of prisons all across America. And I would say this to those who champion this kind of action, to the prison guards who either A, participate or look the other way. I know many of you will proclaim to be Christian. And I know many of you go to church on Sunday and maybe Bible study on Wednesday. And I encourage you. I beg you